I had people in San Francisco, Santa Monica, Sunnyvale, Denver, Singapore, Taipei,
Jesus.
Bangalore.
This I'm recording, by the way. I'm just saying, this is your past, and now you have people in Santa Cruz. It's not too bad.
So, hi, I'm Ebbe. I'm the CEO of Linden Lab, and you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley.
Thank you so much. And here's your $50 for pretending that you're Ebbe Altberg. Nice voice modulation.
Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Jo in 1920s Berlin in Second Life, also known as the Metaverse, unless someone else builds something larger, freer, and perhaps more culturally rich. Who am I kidding? Hi, Jo.
Hello.
So some folks may know that I spent last Friday with Ebbe Altberg and a team of Lindens in Santa Cruz. And
you lucky bastard.
Lindens are human beings, contrary to other reports.
Really?
Yes, they are. They're passionate, they're hardworking, they're emotional, and all the rest, just like human beings.
They're long-haired?
Well, some of them, yes. But what I learned is that they're neither infallible gods nor evildoers out to enslave you and I and punish us.
No, that's what I am.
Well, then you should be banned. Anyway, first a few housekeeping notes. Please subscribe to the show on Stitcher. You find the banner on the right. Stitcher is a great app for any podcast or radio fan. You can always get in touch with us. Please do. Skype us on Drax Files. Leave us a voicemail. Email radio@draxfiles.com or send an in-world message directly to the avatar Drax Files if you want to get in touch, if you have story leads, or if you just want to vent or whatever. Jo, we have a new sponsor, SL Go.
Hey.
And so because they sponsor us, now we sort of have to hype the product.
I'm not going to say that it's better than it is just because they sponsor us, but, I don't really have to because I'm quite excited about it.
What is really the killer app for you with SL Go?
The main reason I'll be using SL Go is that I can use Second Life on my very old MacBook.
That's what gets lost in translation still, I believe, is that SL Go, yes, it's works on the tablet, but it also upgrades any old machine because it renders SL in the cloud. And there is such minimal latency that for regular applications, maybe not a shooter game, right? But for regular applications, socializing, even building, it is completely workable.
If you have a really old computer and you don't want to spend a fortune on a new one, or you can't, then this is a pretty good alternative.
Well, we have 4 old computers here, and some of them are optimized for audio, and one is actually optimized for video editing, but SL just doesn't really run on them. With this, I can have it in the background while I'm editing and compositing shots in Final Cut, in After Effects, and SL Go is there in the background. I'm logged in. I can interact. It doesn't really bring down the machine. It is really amazing.
It will not replace Second Life on my big Alienware supercomputer. But when one of my computers breaks down, I know that I can keep using Second Life on my laptop for weeks, if not months, before I really have to go and buy a new one.
Quite honestly, this is a product that I want to see succeed. If you don't have the $10 for unlimited usage, that's totally fine. Nobody forces you to use it. This is not a Linden Lab product, so no development cost or manpower from within the relatively small group of engineers at Linden Lab is being used for this. That's all there is to it. Let's move to the important topics. Jo, what's really interesting, as we have started talking about education in virtual worlds, there's really a slew of articles coming out. There's one at the University of Kentucky.
They are preparing undergraduates for professional level anatomy. It's fantastic.
This is a no-brainer. I'm just reading from the article. The lead professor says, in a lot of online courses, you're disconnected with the students around you. I mean, this is exactly one of those unique affordances of a virtual world, of virtual reality, broadly speaking, where you can be in there together. So they rebuilt a lab. They built multiple classrooms in Second Life. This is stuff that is just so common sense to us who live in that space.
Absolutely, but it's interesting to know why they choose Second Life and why now. Because they've chosen for Second Life and not for any other alternative. So it would be really interesting to find out why.
Well, I already contacted them. Let's hope that they grant us an interview. But I do think also that, of course, educators left Second Life when we talk about it all the time, when the discount was taken away and people felt sort of betrayed, I suppose. But I do think that we always hear from a very vocal minority that is just disgruntled. I'm not dismissing them, but I think that sometimes, not only in Second Life, but in life in general, there's just a few people who have very, very loud voices, and they do not necessarily speak for the entirety of any group of stakeholders or culture. Actually, this coming Wednesday, I will release a new Drax Files World Makers video of a teacher at Texas A&M University, and they have been using Second Life for years, and they're going strong. They're actually adding courses and faculties. You know, this stuff is happening, maybe not at the growth rate that Linden Lab or anybody else enthusiastic about the matter would expect, but it's certainly not nothing.
The second they realized the huge potential of Second Life, they seem to get it. Because, for instance, in the example that you just mentioned, they can build a 3D skull and look at the nerves and walk around it. And something that they can do with a lot of VR software and technology in real life, but it will cost them a fortune.
Okay, there's another story. We're just going to link to it. The introduction to Second Life for educators. There's a course in Spanish. The University of San Martin de Porres. They're offering one of those massive open online courses, which is actually teaching educators how to use Second Life and how to facilitate it in the classroom. And there's another hands-on application, but the most exciting one that came out this past week is Irish school children using Second Life's little brother, OpenSim, to learn about history.
There's a bunch of kids in Ireland, I think they're about 10 to 12, and they are using OpenSim to recreate medieval ruins that they visited in real life. And then they go and explore it, they recreate it, they learn a lot about it, and then they try it with the Oculus Rift, and of course, the children love that. It
is amazing, and here is the teacher Esther Lamb from St. Kieran's School in Brohall. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Here's a little soundbite from the video.
They were solving problems. That's the amazing part of it, as far as I'm concerned, because that leads to good teamwork. It leads to the kids teaching each other. Boys and girls are working together. The 4th class is working with the 6th class. Somebody finds a solution to a problem, and then they tell everybody else. The kids didn't realise this is all about education, it's all about history, it's all about project management and typing up reports and proper spelling. And but to them, it's fun. And the door here in the morning, there would be a queue outside the door for them to get in.
And what is so heartwarming when you listen to the kids talk about the creativity that unfolds in this project. Here's a couple of sound bites from the video. You see the kids building, texturing, scripting even. Actually, maybe just dragging a script into the door, but nonetheless, it's creativity.
And you can do stretches, and you can do whatever size you want. Then if you want to change the colour, you can go in here and you've got loads of different textures. But you're able to download your own textures as well. Like, I downloaded all of those. When the script is done, you have to link it to the door.
By the way, I couldn't help noticing that these kids don't seem to have a problem with the Second Life UI. They're building, they're scripting, they're texturing.
Yeah, it feels like I'm actually in Clonmacnoise looking up at it.
It feels a lot different because it feels like you're actually doing it.
Whoa, that is humongous. Cool.
They are so excited. That is exactly why I am in Second Life. That is my passion. That is what I do, history.
The history, you go there. I mean, this is literally time travel as close as we can get to it.
The ability to visit the past and actually try and experience and see it as it was.
I forwarded this to every educator that I know. I talked about it at an open house here at the local school because it is frustrating, and I see this hands-on. My son is in 5th grade, what they do with the computer. And again, I don't fault necessarily the teachers there. They are overwhelmed themselves with the testing that they're supposed to be doing, and some of them are not tech savvy and such. But what they do here locally at a quite affluent school district, I have to add, is so limited when it comes to digital technology, and the stuff is out there, right? And as you can imagine, I'm not shy offering my services to help them out and show them stuff, but there is such little response, which I attribute again to the persistent problem of maybe the fear, and it was expressed in our last show, of some educators. Games have no place in the classroom.
I'm not sure which tools educators in Second Life have, but I think that it is almost impossible at the moment in Second Life to have a sim and let children use it without them being able to be teleported or teleport themselves or end up in some sort of weird, wacky place you don't want them to go. In this case, at least, the Irish teacher decided we're going for Open Sim and not Second Life. And that is a huge shame, because this would be fantastic public relations story for Second Life.
Still, nonetheless, I do think also it is by extension great PR for Second Life, as Second Life is then offering more for maybe older kids. But
if I was Ebbe, I would probably say I would take a risk and say let's make educational sims for serious, proper, registered educational organizations. Make them free.
Right.
Because you've got a class here, I think it's 2 or 3 classes, that's 60 kids who grow up using a virtual world, who have this knowledge and this experience, and they will probably become Second Life users once they leave school. You know, there's so many bonuses of having things like this work properly in Second Life that it's probably worth an investment.
The only big problem then would be that to restrict the kids from teleporting out, basically, like you hinted at. I think if that technical issue would be solved, I think Linden Lab could move forward with something like this.
Well, yes. And also the ability to save your sim.
You know, Joe, let's move to the next subject because it's related. My breakfast with Ebbe in Santa Cruz, where he and I talked about the damage carbohydrates can do to a 40-plus male body for 2 hours. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, we talked...
You know, you don't have to say that. I mean,
right.
See the pictures.
You see the pictures. Yes, thank you. But anyway, no, of course we talked about Second Life. And of course we also talked about things like reputation, about onboarding. And you blogged about this. And interestingly enough, we had similar ideas that you put forward about little marketing videos, which I think these ideas are excellent.
My melodramatic stuff.
No, I mean, these actually are really great, and people should really read that. This is just sort of a basic idea how to connect the creativity of Second Life with the person behind the avatar. I mean,
yeah, as far as I can remember, that was missing in the video advertisement I've seen made by Linden Lab so far. There's no connection with real life whatsoever. One of my ideas, imagine a video advertisement for Second Life that, you know, goes a little bit like this. A very slick and smooth video shows a game. You know, someone flying a mini airship with a cannon, dirty children running through Victorian steampunk-like streets being chased by a scary man, explosions, smoke, danger. It looks like an advertisement for a new game coming to your computer soon for free. And then a young chap who's playing this on his computer turns around, looks into the camera and says, "I made that. Second Life, you make your own game." An idea that's, of course, based on one of Second Life's best creators, Loki Elliott.
Very cool, but Second Life is not a game. Do you have any other ideas for people who are not game creators?
Imagine a high-flying career guy at a fancy modern office. He's working, and he tells his secretary, you know, he's leaving early because he's going to meet some of his old friends. So he goes home and he lives in this nice fancy apartment, very modern, and he clearly has a very good job, and you see pictures everywhere of friends, parties, families, journeys he's made across the world. His wife is there, maybe he's got a few kids as well. He puts on his Oculus Rift, he starts up Second Life, and suddenly his avatar turns into a kid. And he's a child child again, and he's in a basement. Everything there is 1980s. The posters, the computer games, the books, the toys. And soon other avatars teleport in. They're all young boys. They laugh, they chat, they play 1980s music, they play the old computer games. And we see that behind these avatars are all older men, businessmen who are living all over the world and have got interesting lives and families. And they've clearly not been together as friends since their childhood. And of course, this is a reference to the book Ready Player One.
It's a really great idea, and it really connects the people behind the avatar to the world that they create for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I think that video really works if you can tell people Second Life is not only made by people like you and me, but look at them. You know, this is what they are in Second Life, and this is what they are in real life. And of course, they're not all sad nerds who just, you know, have got no social life and who don't have a first life, as the old joke goes.
I have an idea too. So how about a peace-loving hippie who we see for 10 seconds at a demonstration somewhere against...
everything.
Against everything, including Islamophobia and homophobia and the war efforts in various countries. Then he goes home, he logs into Second Life, puts on the Oculus Rift, and he turns into Jack Bauer, and he starts torturing alleged Muslim terrorists.
Yeah, okay. Is there something you want to confess here, Drax?
No, my lips are sealed. But anyway, this is exactly why the videos that I make really seem to resonate with folks, judging from the feedback that I get, because people now look at them, and long-time friends of mine who dismissed Second Life for years have emailed me, oh, wow, I understand this stuff is not made by a game company. This stuff is made by a user. Wow, now I get it.
The Drax File episode you made about 1920s Berlin, one of the people commented brilliantly. He said, now suddenly Second Life makes sense.
Let's talk a little bit about what Ebbe and I talked about in the context of...
You're a bit in love. You've got a crush on him.
Got a man crush.
Go on, confess.
This is a bromance for sure.
Oh, God.
No, he's very personal, but he's a very open guy. And I think that is, I mean, we talk about this ad nauseum, but this is something Linden Lab needs. And I hung out the rest of the day with the Lindens finance team. Primarily, I mean, they do customer service and all sort of back-end stuff, really fascinating stuff. And I have lots of raw audio that we're going to air over the course of the next few weeks. What they told me is really that the culture is changing and they're really excited about it. I mean, I'm talking about the regular Lindens who go in to work and try to make this thing better. They feel that there is a big change through the leadership, which makes them in turn, feel better about themselves.
I'm feeling this whole new sort of excitement and enthusiasm going. It has something to do with the Oculus Rift and this whole new interest in virtual reality. Suddenly it seems like we're growing up. I've seen your pictures that you put on Twitter, and I was both excited and disappointed at the same time because, Linden Lab, I was sort of hoping there would be people there in white coats and Bunsen burners.
That's exactly what I envisioned when I went into the house of Bacon Linden.
Isn't there a law against calling yourself a lab if you don't have a lab?
We have to keep in mind that what I witnessed was sort of casual Fridays. They do get together in a private home in the Santa Cruz area, and you walk into a normal, regular home, and you have people with laptops and barefoot and, shorts and Hawaiian shirts sitting on the couch and sort of typing into a laptop while they are in world. And it's a fun atmosphere. But then you go like, wow, this is how a multi-million-dollar economy is run.
Yeah, I somehow have got a feeling that a lot of SL users don't quite imagine that that's how it's going. Many think that Linden Lab is really corporate sort of office with ties and suits, and actually it's a bunch of hippies.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but what I got away with is that this is a relatively small company compared to the complexity of the product. And these people are working extremely hard on such complex issues. They wake up in the morning, they go into work, and they're tasked with a slew of issues that everyone wants them to get to right away or else. I've seen regular human beings who are very, very passionate about the product, about making it better for us residents.
This whole new thing of openness and communication and showing the real face of Linden Lab is a big deal. But it is something that they should have done such a long time ago, and they've made so many problems for themselves. Because if I think that if a lot of people actually had seen a couple of pictures of, hello, we are the bunch at Linden Lab that runs Second Life, if we had known a little bit more about how it actually works, perhaps some of the messages people sent and the language they used in their tickets might have been a little bit more understanding.
We can change, we can learn from the past, and that's also something that I got from Ebbe at the conversation. By the way, I didn't tape the conversation, and it actually led to a more natural conversation, I believe. So we talked a lot about the new user experience. We threw around ideas how to change that, and Joe, by now, probably every Second Lifer has seen this terrible, dreadful video about the new user experience. Basically, Skyspinner Soulstar made a video at the new the orientation island. It is terrible what we see. We see tons of people dropped in from the sky. They don't know where they are. Everything looks uninviting. Everything looks very barren. Then you walk around forever to go to a different place. Then you're being teleported to a place that you might like, but there is nobody there. To me, one thing can solve this. You need people holding hands. I'm absolutely convinced about that.
I didn't need anyone. I mean, I fell into one of those islands and I ran around and I thought, okay, whatever. And I just started exploring. And the only reason I stayed in Second Life is because I found a place that I liked.
Yes, but look, not everybody is as sort of proactive. You're judging a whole group of people by yourself. You're a proactive person. Some people need to have sort of a gentle push in the butt to move a certain direction.
Yeah, but I think you can do that on the Second Life website. I think that you can help people create an avatar, learn the basics, and find a spot that they like, that they might find interesting, with the destination guide, and make it so that their first teleport, the second they start their viewer, is already somewhere where they wanted to go. They arrive somewhere that they've chosen, that they find interesting, and once they've walked around there, they know how to use search and find something else.
We go back to this point, I think it's a good one, that you would do a lot of stuff of the onboarding portion on the web before you actually go in world.
Absolutely. I mean, on the web, you can use flash video, whatever, little tutorials that are much faster, that have no lag, and you can take your time and you can learn the basics on how to walk and change your clothes and things like that without being bothered by grievers or weirdos or people falling from the sky.
Another idea that we threw around and coming up in the show just in a little bit is an interview with Danger Linden, Senior Director of Product at Linden Lab, and I threw this idea to him as well. But Ebbe and I talked about an idea of complete customized branding of the viewer for certain communities. Let's say 1920s Berlin. Imagine a viewer that people download from 1920sberlin.com, that when you start it will not only put you into 1920s Berlin, there are no other options on this viewer, but there's also total branding on the splash page before you log in with interesting information about the community, blah, 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 blah.
That is a really, really good idea. I love it because quite a few friends of mine from real life, because I have some,
I have two.
They joined Second Life only because of me, because of my going on about Second Life and 1920s Berlin on Facebook, and they want to see 1920s Berlin. I would really like that, to have a viewer that I can design, make it look a bit 1920s. Lovely font. So
this sounds like a feasible idea for role-playing communities, other communities of interest.
Commercial sims.
Educational.
If you give people 100% power on how to change the viewer, maybe they can remove the teleport option.
I have to maintain in closing, talking about the new user experience, that to me, hand-holding is a key factor. I don't think everything can be automated.
Hand-holding works, and it's perfect. It's it's really good, but it shouldn't be necessary. It should be, if it's an option, great, but you shouldn't depend someone's Second Life experience on that. Someone should be able to join Second Life and figure it out without it.
It's a good point. They should, but maybe they just don't. Maybe it is just like going to LA. A German tourist who goes to LA will hate it. A German tourist who goes to San Francisco will love it. Why? Because San Francisco is very much like a European city. You can explore it on foot. You can hop on a bus or something, and then you will come out in a place that is very interesting. When you go to LA, you see a bunch of ugly freeways, terrible traffic, and if you're not totally proactive and focused and pre-planned, you will have a terrible time, and you will never see the incredible diversity that Los Angeles has to offer. I think that this is a great metaphor for Second Life in a way.
Yeah, no.
Amsterdam is a great city where I can go in and I will find interesting things. Brothels, museums, anything.
You found brothels?
Yeah, they kind of hit you over the head with it near the train station. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, hand-holding, I don't know. I can't let go of that concept.
Well, I think it would be really great to have a place in Second Life where people with experience guide noobs around and help them out.
And there are such places. There's the New Citizens Incorporated. They helped me out when I first came in.
If my gran can join it and figure it out on her own and go and explore, that'd be fantastic.
All right, let's go right away to Danger Linden, a.k.a. Don Labs. He's the Senior Director of Product at Linden Lab. He came over with Rod Humble from EA, and he did not leave. He's still here, which says something. This guy is passionate. This guy is pretty smart, and he sticks around. So maybe SL is not doomed after all. We'll have many more interviews in the next coming weeks from my day with the Lindens. Another great movie title. What do you think, Joe? Here's Danger Linden.
Rod did hire me about 2 years ago, last March. I had worked for him at Electronic Arts.
In what capacity did you work at Electronic Arts?
I was a senior producer, and I worked on first Sims 2, Open for Business, and Sims 2 Pets. Those were expansion packs. Then I moved to the Sims Carnival project, which was kind of has a lot of similarities to Second Life in that it was an attempt to democratize game creation. And worked on that for about a year, and then in the Sims Internet group, I worked on a Facebook game called Sim Social.
With the Sims and Second Life, there is a similarity with democratization. I mean, Second Life goes a step further by having no boundaries, if you will. Is that what appeals to you? Why are you still here? What's fascinating about it? What's cool about it? Number one question. And number two, is Second Life a game?
Well, on the second one, I say no, Second Life is not a game. For the most part, Second Life is play, but it's not a game. When you're going in and you're having an alternate identity and you're engaging in some sort of make-believe, it's I would call that play, although we do have our meetings in Second Life. And so we're there for business, but we're also wearing different outfits. So perhaps we're just having fun on the job.
No, I like that a lot, the distinction between play and game, because that type of unstructured play that kids do, which is so instrumental, is something that SL provides. And then you can add rules at your own sort of leisure, if you will.
Yeah, you can add rules. And there certainly are games that you can play, but it wouldn't be, it would not at all be accurate to characterize Second Life as a game. Now, interesting comparison, Second Life is often compared with the virtual world called Oasis in the novel Ready Player One. And one of the differences about that is that they had an overarching game structure. They had leveling up that was worldwide, and things that you had to accomplish to get from place to place. But that's a huge difference, though, between Oasis and Second Life, in that we don't have an overarching metagame. But the only thing that we have in common is how many Linden dollars you have.
When I read that book, I thought it would actually be kind of cool to have a way where you had to move from sim to sim by way of either paying or some sort of as it was in the very early days, little teleport hubs. I think maybe reintroducing teleport hubs may create a sense of discovery.
That is a fascinating philosophical discovery or discussion that a lot of folks have had. And Philip himself is on record as saying that he would have preferred if teleporting had never been introduced. There's a lot of different ways to look at that. One of the things that people do is harken back to the original days of Second Life, when it was kind of small and you could get your head around it, and you could go from place to place, and you could see things being built, and you had to walk from place to place. Kind of like if you've watched the show Deadwood, it's a mining town being built up from the ground up. But then there becomes a particular point where now it is so big, now you're dealing with 30,000 regions. Not everyone is so crazy about the idea of having to, walk from place to place. You could, let's say if you were to do a thought experiment and compare the early days of Second Life with the early days of the internet. Maybe there's only a dozen websites. And in those days, we could ask you, you can't just put in a URL. You got to go walk over. You got to do some action to walk over to the website next door. Here's AAA.com and here's BBB.com, right? But at some point, when there's a bunch of websites, say, well, now I'm being inconvenienced. I often think about the idea of, should we be able to teleport, and is it an actual geographical world, or is it more like the internet?
Right. But
if I'm racing back to my desk and I'm late for a meeting, which is going to take place in a virtual conference room, I just want to click. I don't want to have to spend another 5 minutes taking the bus and being 5 minutes late to my meeting.
But it is fascinating because I felt last time I was in 1920s Berlin, and Void Pointer was there, Linden and some others, and it was amazing. It was a very nice conversation, and I had to go. I didn't just teleport home or logged off.
Right.
I walked out the bar and walked around the corner and then disappeared.
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of like Doctor Who, if you will. But
Yes.
at least I made some sort of an exit that was human.
Right. We always want to let people teleport out at the drop of a hat, because if they get into a situation they're not comfortable with, they need to be able to pull the emergency cord and get out. But certainly if you're going into 1920s Berlin and you want to, if you want to have an experience that's more like it, part of the success of any role-playing environment is the willingness of the participants
To adhere to these rules.
to adhere to play the role. So, and that's what you were doing by instead of just disappearing, you walked outside so as not to embarrass anyone with the reality.
You're right, absolutely. So it's tied into that particular role play perhaps as well. But even more broadly speaking, I just felt it was kind of akin to a party. I don't know. I mean, teleportation obviously doesn't work in the physical world, but imagine you're at a party and say, hey, bye, guys, I'm gone.
Right.
Boom, and you're gone. And it's somewhat rude.
Yes, it seems dramatic. So it is...
even Superman wouldn't do that.
Yes, right. No,
I mean, he would, I guess.
Well, he might. But he might go to the trouble of taking a running jump and jumping out the window. But there are plenty of entrepreneurs in Second Life that, when they're asked about is teleporting good, they're going to say, well, you mean when someone clicks on a link on my ad somewhere on the internet and they can just instantly pop into my store? Yeah, I like that. That part I like. It is an interesting dilemma. It's hard to imagine trying to negotiate the entire Second Life without teleporting. But there's certainly something compelling about the Oasis. In reading that, it was kind of a cool fiction.
Absolutely.
And our hero,
because it gave the hero drama, it gave the whole narrative that push. He wouldn't have had all these things if he weren't in the predicament in the first place that he didn't have any money to leave the school planet.
He had to do something just to leave his home planet. So that's really interesting. But remember, Oasis is a game, and Second Life is a virtual experience. You've got a lot of different reasons for being in there, and there are a lot of people making money in there that they want convenience and low friction for people to get to their shops and to buy stuff and things like that. So one would hope that we have given enough capability to creators of the regions that they can enforce that sort of thing within their own regions.
Well, I think when I talk to game creators in world, some of my friends have really pushed the envelope on what you guys, the features that you roll out. And I was talking to Maestro about the game experience tools. Some of my friends are complaining, when are they being rolled out, that I can control the avatar more within a game experience.
Yeah, and that is being worked on. It's coming closer. As with many things in Second Life, trying to build something solid on top of legacy code can be very time consuming. The key to that, the literal key to that, is the experience keys, which basically allows a region owner to set up a particular experience in their region with a key, and then a resident gets to accept that, basically the permission one time, and then you have attach HUDs and being able to transport and things like that, and then through the length of their experience, that permission is assumed, and no permissions associated with Linden dollars, no automatic permissions with Linden dollars, and then that basically expires once you log off, and then you have to answer it again. So that is coming along. We've spent a lot of time eating our own dog food on that and building two different experiences, which really exercise the experience tools and experience keys, and our plan is to at the same roll those out to show examples of what you can get done with experience tools and experience keys, and then release experience keys to the general public. But this one, it's been a long road, and we've been working on it since I've been here.
Everybody wants things to be done yesterday and then probably for free. I think that's kind of a human impulse.
And one of the interesting things about a big system legacy code like Second Life is that you think, well, gee, if we never changed anything again, we wouldn't have to fix any bugs, right? And the answer is, well, no, of course not. Even though we could freeze ourselves in time, the rest of the world keeps on changing things. Now Mac has a new operating system, a new browser, a new APIs of stuff we're using. Google changes their API, or the fundamental behavior of people changes, and now that exercise is part of the system that hasn't been exercised before. So it's kind of the baseline for just keeping it running, even if we never change anything, is non-zero.
Will Ferrell, the comedian, had a joke where he said, before you get married, if you feel like you should get married to this girl, observe her how she reacts to a slow internet connection. And then make that decision afterwards.
That's a good one.
Why does this not load?
Yeah. And Louis C.K. has a great skit on, everything is wonderful and people are still unhappy because their phone hasn't responded in 1 second, and it's a great skit he did on Conan O'Brien.
We are accustomed to something that is just maybe not realistic.
Well, the thing is, it should work. As providers of solutions and products and stuff like that. I mean, the consumers have a right to things working with each other. It's just that it's not free. I mean, it's not free. I mean, it takes resources, and unfortunately, those resources take away from the more exciting new features we might want to be working on.
And I see with my son, when he goes on Minecraft works. There's less lag, and I tell him, these are just cubes. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, there's nobody there. Number three, there's tons of restrictions what you can do. But of course, the emotional reaction is simply, well, this is a pleasurable experience, and this other thing isn't.
Yes. When you're in our business, that is what you sign up for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to... that's going to happen. We're all motivated to bring entertainment to people and make people happy. And we get a lot of pleasure out of when people recognize the accomplishments, but you can't avoid being misunderstood.
This is a larger philosophical and societal problem. Maybe the sense of wonder that it works at all compared to, maybe that also should be communicated to kids, maybe.
Right.
My dad had a Commodore 64 with the floppy disks in the thing. That was my first experience in when was it, 82, 83? Compared to what's happening now, it is frankly amazing. I know that doesn't really help anybody in a super highly competitive environment.
Can't really afford to cut ourselves slack because what are we competing against? It's not just the other virtual worlds out there. It's the things that anybody could be doing with their leisure time, from Facebook to watching TV and movies and stuff like that. It was the same thing on The Sims. The Sims had no competition, so we had to consider our competition anything that would keep them from playing The Sims.
Right.
And so that's how we had to approach things. So, and one of the challenges with something that is as old as Second Life. One of the interesting things about when we examine the challenge of trying to get things to work with 11, 12 years of legacy code, and if we're tempted to say woe is me, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that the reason that we have the privilege of working on this 12-year-old legacy code is that we're still around. The people who don't have to work on 12 years of legacy code is because they died before 12 years were up. So they're working on new stuff. Okay, that's great. With success and long-term success, we have to maintain stuff that other folks don't have to maintain, but we have a thriving business, 12 years later.
For an engineer, you have a lot of philosophical thoughts. I didn't expect that.
Oh, well, I started as an engineer. My degree is in electrical engineering and computer science from Cal, but I run producers. I've been running producers for probably about the second half of my career in the gaming business. And I say gaming business, I know that this is not a game. Certainly a lot of similarities in how we approach it. And one of the challenges in 2014 is I like to use the word relevance with our team. We want to be relevant. When people approach Second Life, one of the things that we have to challenges that we have is that we're getting user created content to work. We've all been in the game business for a long time, and we know that when we have a team of artists who are making something for a big game, you always have to go around to those artists and say, no, you can't have that many polygons. No, sorry, you're over budget, and you have to, keep on crunching them down because they want to be more expressive. Say, sorry, it's not going to perform. Well, that's not going to work with our users. Our users came to Second Life because they don't want someone looking over their shoulder saying, oh, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. So they want to be as creative and expressive as possible. And if they want a zillion polygons on the ring, that's only going to be a couple pixels, well, that's part of the fun that they're having. We have to figure out how to deal with that. Now, when we do deal with it, the challenge is that new people who come in, they aren't saying, if they don't like what they see, they're not saying, oh, I see that these guys are doing a great job of rendering user-created content. Right. All they're seeing is, I think I'll go play somewhere else.
Right.
One of the things we are doing, should be ready in the next month or so, is we are modernizing the starter avatars. There'll be 24 new ones. This is at registration. That's one of the first things you see when you are trying to figure out if you want to do Second Life. If the avatars look like they're from 2011, 2010, which they are, they're not likely to be coming in.
I have just 2-3 more questions. Does it ever go through your mind how easy it would be to just get rid of some old content? And now that you mentioned the avatars, maybe the avatars should be forcefully replaced.
Generally, we try to avoid that, and the reason is that 11 years, 12 years of people building up, their communities, their content, and stuff like that. And a lot of it does depend on old content and old techniques. So when we introduce something new, you have to be careful about upsetting the apple cart, because remember, people are in there for all sorts of different reasons. And if you're in a particular community and you're primarily in there for the chat or a support group for a particular issue, you don't want that experience upset because we're coming in and saying, okay, now everyone has to have mesh avatars, for example, or mesh clothing, fitted mesh clothing. It's, people have their livelihoods depending on doing it a particular way. And that's just something we have to navigate. Now, there's sometimes we do get rid of stuff. I mean, the magic boxes technique of delivering things is being phased out. There's one more phase to go, but when we did that, we had to do careful metrics and research on how it was being used. We had to roll it out to the merchants. We had to give them warning. Had to communicate with them, and so that's it's not done lightly because it upsets people's ability to make a living.
And just feeling of cultural belonging and sort of their own heritage.
Right.
I think going back to what you said about relevance, I mean, I think that is why, to me, Second Life has enormous relevance, and maybe to many others, is because exactly for that type of freedom that you're allowing them to.
Right.
Which is also the biggest problem in maintaining and moving it forward.
Yes. Yeah. It's a tightrope.
It's like an old European town with circular streets.
Yes.
And you want to build a monorail through it somehow, or some efficient way to get from this part of town to the other part of town.
Yeah, but you can't tear down the old stuff.
That's right. The castle from 1335.
Yeah. And not because it's nostalgic, but because people are still using it, and they need that for particular purpose. Now, we did make a big change with when we did Project Sunshine, which was server-side baking, and that greatly improved the experience across the grid. It did mean that certain viewers that were kind of still using the old code, well, they weren't going to work anymore. So we do sometimes make decisions where, the greater good is we have to move forward.
It's just forcing someone buying better glasses to see better. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, with Ebbe earlier, I talked a lot about the new user, or we're just sort of brainstorming about onboarding and stuff like that, and we kind of played with an idea of a branded, and I just want to have your feedback, maybe as a final question. Would it work to have branded experiences from top to bottom? In other words, if there's a community like 1920s Berlin, or I'm just using a role-play community because maybe that's the best example, they have their own branded viewer. People can download from their site. From the very beginning, there's no other recommendations from the destination guide. There's just 1920s Berlin photos, whatever, on the login page. You log in, you're in 1920s Berlin. Maybe they have to have an agreement with you guys that it's them, but they're actually logging in through your service. So there's a clear communication who provides what services. But then the noob is in 1920s Berlin, content that he was looking forward to. Then he's helped with onboarding with people who are there in that role-playing community. They provide that type of that staff. He also knows he's been communicated to that there is a world outside of it that he could also visit.
That sounds like a great idea. We'd like to buy that. Let's do that.
Oh, you can have it.
Yeah, you can have it. I think that there were attempts a number of years ago, probably more like 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And I think the trick in bringing this stuff back, and with Ebbe here, what's great about having Ebbe here is he's looking at things with a fresh pair of eyes, and he has a different philosophy about openness and stuff like that. So, when it became clear that was his orientation, we've been coming with him and say, hey, can we fix this? Can we fix this? Can we fix this? And we've been doing a lot of things. And part of that is looking at that stuff that existed around the time of 2009, 2010. Yes. Now, 2010, there was a big reorganization and reduction in force. And so a lot of those programs got cut. Fundamentally, the reason they got cut is because they became not scalable and unmanageable and not profitable. And so what we have to look at when we talk about bringing some of these things back, we have to look at, okay, we know what happened before. How do we implement something like this that is manageable and maintainable and scalable? Some of it has to do with the organization of the company and the philosophy and how you get things done. Now, we would like to think that one of the differences between 2009 and 2014, 5 years later, is that we're all 5 years smarter. And as an industry, there are 5 years more of best practices and how you do these things. I mean, that's a lot of years in tech. And so we're not the only ones that are trying to build communities and to solve these various problems. And if we're willing to look at what has been developed in best practices, I think that this time around we can make it work. I think one of the things that happened before the 2010, and this is just my speculation because I wasn't there, is that a lot of things got added, and kind of looking at the bottom line became second priority. Since 2010 we've been profitable, and so the other thing that will help is Ebbe is very operationally oriented, and he has a lot of experience, and so I think we've got a great chance to do things like that and make them work. The other thing that's true today is that there are a lot more ways to measure customer behavior and metrics and really understand how a particular thing is helping. But you need to do that. You need the company will, and you need the focus, and you need, because it's it's not a one-off thing that you can just talk to a couple guys and you're done. Microsoft takes it very seriously. So does Apple, and so do a lot of these big companies. So does Amazon. And so you have to say that this is very important to us. We're going to use this technique and focus on it and look at best practices and implement it that way.
Maybe at that time it was also a little bit leftover of the hubris that it's so cool, everybody will want to use it anyway. So we don't really have to stress test it or something.
I mean, there's definitely a lot. There was a lot of that in 2009. There's still a lot of that today in just in the industry itself. There's a lot of not invented here philosophy in the industry. People want to. It's much more fun to invent something yourself, even if it's already been invented out there, than to search for a solution. If you're a creator, builder, whatever, you have to be disciplined.
Thankfully, I'm not in your industry.
Yeah.
So that was Danger Linden, Senior Director Product at Linden Lab. Next week, we'll have some more Lindens, including Bacon Linden, who is a QA engineer. And, Joe, what he does, his job is to go in and buy stuff all day long. So he buys land, he buys objects, he buys stuff, and then he tests if the transaction was smooth. And then he works with the team to improve the transaction. When you listen to him, the level of complexity, again, of these sort of global transactions, right, in the multi-million-dollar range annually is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about microtransactions. I don't know how many per day. It's insane.
All this stuff talking about numbers and figures. Oh, God, my brain hurts.
Well, Joe, I just, recommended you for an opening at Linden Lab in the finance department, but there you go. You just disqualified yourself.
Probably start demanding all these guys to get haircuts anyway, so.
Okay, so we're running out of time. Joe, anything that's happening over the weekend? Anything interesting?
Well, very important. SL11B is here. The Second Life anniversary. I've always had a lot of fun at those events. So we're going to start preparing for that. And I hope that a lot of people in Second Life are going to take part and get their own little parcel and show off what they can do. And they
are looking for speakers. So I was actually considering to apply, because that's one thing that I can do really well is talk. Anyway, one thing that we didn't get to, Joe, you blogged about, I just want to mention, we put it on the blog, and this video also made rounds. Last walk outside for a terminally ill woman, thanks to the Oculus Rift and thanks to what virtual reality can provide. I mean, this is stuff that everybody has to see. So much more we didn't get to. Apple has patented a hologram type feature for future devices. We'll link to it. There's a new machinima. I did a voiceover. My wife did a voiceover as well, called Educating with Mad Lab. It's a PSA for the Merced County Mosquito Abatement District. And it shows, again, how machinima can be a incredibly awesome, cost-effective alternative to digital animation. But I am afraid we do have to end on a serious note. Net neutrality. Net neutrality is such an important issue. Please educate yourself on this. There's various links on our blog. There has been some conflicting reports on a recent FCC ruling, but it does seem clear that it will be possible in the future for big telecom companies to be able to charge for preferred traffic, like movies delivered from big studios. And that means that other traffic, such as you and me and Joe Blow, that this stuff may be slowed down to make up for the congestion. So this is what net neutrality is all about. And
we have it.
I know, because the European Parliament has voted to protect it, and the US is going the other route. It's crazy. The world is insane, and you got to read up on this stuff and see what you can do as an informed citizen.
Yeah, apparently I live in one of the 2 countries in the world that have it.
The Netherlands and Slovenia are currently the 2 countries that have net neutrality laws in place, and most European countries are implementing their own version of the law, except, to be noted, the UK. Today we're going out with Gentle Heron, who runs Virtual Ability Island. Tomorrow, Saturday, the 3rd annual Mental Health Symposium will happen in Second Life. Another one of those unique affordances. Excellent presenters. All talks are centered around the theme of quality of life. This is what community in virtual worlds is all about. You can chime in with a front seat at important conversations with a global audience. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but this is amazing. Here is Gentle Heron talking a little bit about the individual sessions and speakers you can expect. And that's it for the show today. Bye, Joe.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Dr. Bogner from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine asked older adults who were depressed to describe their depression. And the word they used most commonly was, "I'm lonely." And what's interesting is that in the DSM, the diagnostic criteria that doctors use to label someone as being depressed so that they can treat the depression, that word does not appear. So the most common description that people give of their depression is not part of the diagnostic criteria. That's her research. The second presenter is going to talk about job accommodation, going to be telling both employers and employees how to ask for accommodation, how to be a self-advocate. So telling your employer what you need to be successful in the job. Our third presenter is from the University of Ulm in Germany. Dr. Rausch is a researcher on persons at risk of psychosis. He worked with young people to look at how they label their own behavior, how they label themselves, and how they feel shame and stigma, and how that stress affects their lives. In the middle of the day, we have Dick Dillon. And he is an addiction counselor in the physical world. When people go through the addiction recovery process, that creates a situation where they become weller than well, because they not only work to cure their addiction, they fix their nutrition, they improve their social life, their emotional life, and so they become super healthy. The American Counseling Association has a cyber task force. So they're seriously looking into the use of virtual worlds for service delivery in counseling. They will talk in general about how counseling helps people with mental health issues deal with quality of life. And they're also going to talk about the ethics and the procedures of providing mental health services in a virtual setting. Fascinating. Jackie Morey will talk about a project that she has run that uses virtual worlds to help veterans deal with stress. And Colleen Crary is our last presenter. She's from PTSD support. She will talk about how recovering from these traumatic events can cause people to have an improved quality of life. I don't think that people come into virtual worlds thinking about how they can improve their health. When you find peer support, when you find health and wellness education in the virtual setting, that's a bonus. But it's here and we can make good use of it. Virtual Ability works to bring people with all different kinds of disabilities, physical, mental, emotional, developmental, and sensory disabilities into virtual worlds and help them be successful according to their own definitions here. We have approximately 900 members at this point. I don't think that virtual worlds are going away anytime soon. I don't think Second Life is in any danger of imminent demise. What I see in my community is a steady growth. The interest and knowledge is getting out there. People are coming to join us. I think the issues that occur in the disability community also occur in the elderly community, and I'm seeing a large number of people in Second Life who are 40, 50, 60 or older. I'm seeing groups beginning to form specifically for the interests of older people. There is a stereotype that virtual worlds are for the young, and I don't think that's a very true stereotype at all. One of of the benefits of being able to present yourself as an avatar, and in particular of an avatar that you can create and recreate at will, is that you are not associated with your physical body. Many of us don't feel like our real world appearance reflects who we really are, who we feel we are. The conference offers a great opportunity to interact with professionals who you might otherwise not have an opportunity to meet. I mean, transportation is an issue for many people, and the costs of these professional conferences will be prohibitive. But here, it's free. You don't need to be a computer expert. Learning is like learning any other new skill. I don't think it's any more difficult than learning to drive a car. You can damage other people with a car. You can't damage people by running Second Life. You're not going to run anybody over with Second Life.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, SL Go by OnLive, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Caravel Designs, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Escapades, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Mantra, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, and Landscapes Unlimited. Special thanks to Ebbe Linden for providing the station ID this week. Contact the show via Skype Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.
The similarity between the real world and Second Life is an extreme degree of freedom where everybody can create, which means you will have wonderful things, ugly things, beautiful things.
Things that work and things that don't.
Things that work and things that don't, just like in the real life.